Beauty and the Beast wasn't just Disney's elegant fairy tale. It was a brutal battlefield of rewrites, rivalries, and groundbreaking risks that nearly tore the studio apart. Behind the shimmering ballroom and romantic score lurked panic, collapsed storylines, and chaos that could have sunk the project forever. Today, we'll reveal 20 weird facts about Beauty and the Beast, the production disasters, the casting drama, and the hidden details that even lifelong Disney fans missed. We'll count them down, starting from number 20 all the way to the most shocking truth of all. And wait until you hear the bonus fact, a secret Disney buried deep that changes how you see the movie entirely. Let's dive in. Number 20. The entire film was thrown out. Once before the version you know, there was a completely different Beauty and the Beast. Disney originally hired British animators to adapt the story in a serious, Gothic style closer to the original French fairy tale. But when Jeffrey Katzenberg saw the early reels, he hated it. He declared the project unwatchable and scrapped the entire production. Months of work gone overnight. This wasn't unusual. Disney had done it with The Rescuers Down Under. But here, it left the animators furious. Entire character designs, early scripts, and darker scenes, like Belle's family backstory, were destroyed. What emerged was a reboot under Gary Trousdale and Kirk Wise, with a lighter musical tone. Ironically, that brutal reset may have saved the film, setting the stage for its Broadway-style success. Audiences never knew they were watching the second attempt. Number 19. Belle's character was almost completely different. The Belle we know, bookish, independent, sharp, wasn't the Belle Disney first designed. Early drafts made her passive, more like Snow White, waiting to be rescued. It was screenwriter Linda Wolverton who pushed back, insisting Belle had to be modern, assertive, and relatable for 1990s audiences. But there was a battle. Executives argued that audiences didn't want too independent a heroine. Wolverton won only after adding Belle's love of books, a detail inspired by her own childhood. Even then, animators fought over her look. Some wanted glamorous, others plain. Disney finally modeled her partly on Katharine Hepburn in Little Women. What audiences didn't know is that Belle was a compromise, strong but still softened for studio comfort. If Wolverton hadn't fought for her, she might have been yet another silent Disney princess. Number 18. The ballroom scene was digital trickery. That iconic ballroom dance? It looks timeless, but it was a gamble that nearly collapsed. Disney used new CAPS, computer animation production system, technology for the sweeping camera shot around Belle and Beast. It was the first time Disney blended CGI with hand-drawn characters in such a major way. The problem? The tech was unstable. Animators feared the system would crash. During rendering, wasting weeks of work. Some traditionalists hated it, calling it soulless compared to hand-painted backdrops. But Katzenberg pushed hard. He wanted a showcase moment to prove Disney was ahead of the curve. Not hand-painted, but digital. Not safe, but revolutionary. The risk paid off, making it one of the most talked-about scenes of the decade. What audiences didn't know was how close that shot came to being cut for technical failure. Number 17. Angela Lansbury nearly didn't sing Beauty and the Beast. Imagine Mrs. Potts without Angela Lansbury's warm, trembling voice. That almost happened. When Lansbury saw the sheet music for Beauty and the Beast, she told composer Alan Menken she wasn't sure her voice could handle such a soaring ballad. She thought the song would be better sung by someone else. The directors convinced her to try once. Just one take. That single recording, raw, emotional, imperfect, became the final version used in the movie. No endless retakes, no studio polish. It wasn't planned, but it was perfect. Lansbury later admitted she cried after hearing how it fit the ballroom sequence. Fans never knew the song that defined Disney's Renaissance almost never made it into the film at all. Number 16. The Beast's voice was made of multiple animals. Robbie Benson voiced Beast, but his voice wasn't the only one you heard. To make Beast terrifying, Disney layered animal sounds. Lions, tigers, even camels, under Benson's dialogue. Sound designers called it vocal camouflage. It wasn't just Benson, but a beastly chorus of creatures that gave his growls depth. One story claims Benson blew out his voice repeatedly, pushing so hard he left recording sessions exhausted. Still, the hybrid mix gave Beast an otherworldly power. What audiences didn't know is that they were listening to a constructed monster, stitched together from both man and beast. That soundscape is why Beast feels so real, so unpredictable, and so much larger than any single performance. Number 15. Gaston's death was originally far more brutal. The arrogant hunter who sings about eating 5 dozen eggs doesn't go quietly. In the final cut, Gaston falls dramatically from the castle, disappearing into the mist. But early drafts had him stabbed by the beast and thrown to his death. Disney executives panicked. Too violent, too shocking for a family film. So the knife was erased, replaced with a simple fall. Yet if you look closely, you'll still catch a tiny glint. Animators left a split-second shot where Gaston's knife flashes before he loses his grip. Not family-friendly, but savage. Not just a fall, but a near murder that Disney softened. Number 14. The Animators hid a real curse in the movie. Every Disney film has Easter eggs, but Beauty and the Beast went darker. Animators slipped real medieval curses into the stained glass windows and books in Belle's library. Art director Brian McEntee confirmed that some of the Latin phrases are not gibberish. They translate to phrases about eternal servitude and broken oaths. Why? Disney wanted authenticity, pulling from real illuminated manuscripts. But some artists admitted it was also an inside joke, a wink that the Beast's curse carried a real sting. Most audiences never stopped to translate the Latin, but for those who did, the effect is eerie. Not random patterns, but genuine medieval text. Not harmless decoration, but dark whispers embedded in Disney magic. What audiences didn't know is that Belle's fairy tale world hides fragments of very real curses. Number 13. Paige O'Hara cried while recording. Belle Page. O'Hara, who voiced Belle, didn't just act, she lived the role. During the scene where Belle weeps over the dying beast, O'Hara reportedly broke down in the recording booth and sobbed uncontrollably. Her voice cracked, her breath hitched, and the directors kept it in. Those tears weren't fake. O'Hara later explained she imagined losing someone she loved, and the emotion overwhelmed her. The sound team worried the crying would distort the track, but Alan Menken insisted it gave the moment authenticity. Not manufactured emotion, but raw heartbreak. Not polished performance, but genuine grief. What audiences didn't know is that Belle's anguished cries were real. Paige O'Hara was mourning in the booth, and it still hits hard decades later. Number 12. The Wolves Scene. Terrified Animators 2. The scene where the Beast rescues Belle from a pack of wolves looks thrilling, but behind the scenes it was chaos. Animators struggled for weeks to choreograph the fight because wolves had never been realistically animated in Disney's history. They studied live wolves, brought in footage from documentaries, and even mimicked wolf movements themselves. One animator admitted he had nightmares after drawing snarling wolf faces over and over. The sequence almost got cut entirely due to cost, but Katzenberg demanded it stay. He believed the wolf fight proved the Beast's redemption arc. Not just a fight, but a visual gamble. Not just wolves, but a torment for the team drawing them. What audiences didn't know is that the wolves weren't just attacking Belle. They haunted the very artist who brought them to life. Number 11. The film was made. Under a brutal deadline, Disney had never made a feature this fast. After scrapping the first version, animators had only 2 years to finish The New Beauty and The Beast. For comparison, most Disney features took 4 to 5 years. The pressure was crushing. Artists worked 14-hour days, sleeping under their desks, living off cold pizza and coffee. Producer Don Hahn admitted it felt like war. Departments clashed, tempers flared, and many staff swore they'd quit once the movie was done. Yet somehow, against the odds, the team delivered on time. Not leisurely artistry, but trench warfare. Not polished calm, but frantic survival. What audiences didn't know is that the movie's polished elegance hides a production that nearly broke its animators. Number 10. The first animated film ever nominated for Best Picture. When Beauty and the Beast premiered, No one at Disney expected it to shatter Oscar history. Animated films had never been treated as equals to live-action dramas, but the critical acclaim was overwhelming. In 1992, it became the first animated feature ever nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. Not just a cartoon, but a cultural milestone that forced Hollywood to respect animation as cinema. The cast and crew were stunned, especially since it competed against films like Silence of the Lambs and Bugsy. Although it didn't win, the nomination changed the industry, paving the way for the creation of the Best Animated Feature category years later. What audiences didn't know is that their favorite fairy tale was also a weapon that broke Hollywood tradition. And while we're breaking records here, go ahead and like and subscribe, because the next secrets prove the chaos ran deeper than anyone guessed. Number 9. Jerry Orbach recorded Be Our Guest in character Be Our Guest is one of the most joyous numbers in Disney history, but behind the microphone, it was a frenzy. Jerry Orbach, famous from Law & Order, recorded Lumiere's lines with a heavy French accent while acting out the gestures in the booth. Animators later studied his exaggerated movements, flailing arms, bowing flourishes, and used them to animate Lumiere's personality. He didn't just voice the character, he performed him physically. Angela Lansbury joked that Orbach burned more energy in the booth than the animators could capture. What audiences didn't know is that the ballroom spectacle was born from an actor literally dancing around a soundstage, turning a simple recording session into live theater. Number 8. Disney's rival studio tried to sabotage it. While Disney was reinventing its reputation with Beauty and the Beast, rival studio Don Bluth Productions, behind The Land Before Time, felt the heat. Bluth rushed to release Rock-a-Doodle in the same window, hoping to steal attention. The tactic backfired. Disney's film dominated the box office, while Bluth's became a critical and commercial disaster. Animators recalled the tension, knowing competitors were betting on their failure. Not quiet rivalry, but open sabotage attempts. What audiences didn't know is that Beauty and the Beast didn't just triumph. It crushed competition that wanted to see Disney stumble, marking the true end of the animation rivalry between Bluth and the mouse. Number 7. Beast's design came from a zoo field trip. The Beast is one of Disney's most complex character designs, and his appearance wasn't invented from scratch. Animators toured zoos, sketching animals for inspiration. They borrowed the mane of a lion, the beard of a buffalo, the tusks of a boar, and even the brow of a gorilla. Supervising animator Glenn Keane said, "We wanted him to be frightening, but also someone Belle could fall in love with. The hybrid creature was both terrifying and sympathetic, a balance that took months to refine, not just a monster, but an emotional collage of the animal kingdom." What audiences didn't know is that every snarl, every movement of the Beast carries DNA from real-world predators stitched into one unforgettable design. Number 6. The opening narration almost didn't exist. The haunting prologue, with its stained glass storytelling, wasn't part of the original cut. Disney considered starting directly with Belle in the Village, but executives worried audiences wouldn't understand the Beast's curse, so screenwriter Linda Wolverton wrote a brief narration. David Ogden Stiers, who also voiced Cogsworth, recorded it in his deep, commanding tone. The narration instantly set the mood, dark, tragic, and epic. Without it, the story risked feeling like just another light musical. Not filler, but framing. Not optional, but essential. What audiences didn't know is that one late decision, the addition of a 2-minute narration, transformed the film into something grander, more mythic, and unforgettable. Number 5. The Rose was almost cut from the story. The enchanted rose is the heart of the film, but it wasn't always there. Early drafts had the curse tied only to time, no physical symbol at all. It was art director Brian McEntee who suggested a rose, inspired by the original French fairy tale. The image of petals falling became both a visual clock and a metaphor for dying love. Without it, the story would have lacked urgency, and the film's most iconic image, the glowing rose under glass, wouldn't exist. Not just a prop, but the soul of the movie. What audiences didn't know is that the rose, the very emblem of Beauty and the Beast, was nearly erased before it bloomed. Number 4. Human Again was deleted for decades. The Broadway-style number Human Again was written by Howard Ashman and Alan Menken, but cut from the film late in production. Katzenberg thought it slowed the pacing, and with the brutal deadline, the animators didn't have time to finish it. The song sat in Disney's vaults for over a decade, until it was restored in the 2002 special edition. Not just a cut song, but a piece of Ashman's last work before his death. What audiences didn't know is that a missing number, one that gave the enchanted objects emotional depth, haunted the creators until Disney finally brought it back years later. Number 3. Howard Ashman wrote lyrics while dying lyricist. Howard Ashman was secretly battling AIDS during production, something most of the crew didn't know. He worked from his hospital bed, writing songs like Be Our Guest and Beauty and the Beast, while barely able to speak. The studio even flew animators to his home in New York so he could guide them. He died before the film premiered, never seeing the audience's reaction. At the end of the credits, the film is dedicated to him, to our friend Howard, who gave a mermaid her voice and a beast his soul. Not just lyrics, but a farewell gift. What audiences didn't know is that Ashman's struggle shaped the emotional weight of the entire movie. Number 2. The premiere was in an opera house. Instead of a typical Hollywood theater, Disney premiered Beauty and the Beast at the New York Film Festival inside the Metropolitan Opera House. It was a bold statement. Animation was no longer just for kids. It was art worthy of the same stage as Carmen or La Bohème. The version shown was unfinished, with pencil sketches mixed with finished animation, yet it received a standing ovation. Not just a screening, but a declaration. What audiences didn't know is that Disney deliberately staged the premiere in an opera house to force critics to view the film as high art, and the gamble worked. Number 1. The film saved Disney animation from collapse. By the late 1980s, Disney animation was on life support. The Black Cauldron had bombed, animators were leaving, and studios whispered that Disney magic was dead. Beauty and the Beast changed everything, grossing over $400 million worldwide and proving Disney could compete again. It wasn't just a hit, it was survival. The success launched a new golden age, leading to Aladdin, The Lion King, and beyond. Not just a fairy tale, but a resurrection. What audiences didn't know is that without Beauty and the Beast, Disney's animation department might have shut down entirely. Bonus fact: the Beast's final form was the hardest to design. Strangely, the hardest part wasn't designing the Beast, it was designing his human self. Animators couldn't agree on what he should look like. Too handsome, and audiences would miss the Beast. Too plain, and Belle's love wouldn't feel believable. Glenn Keane admitted they argued endlessly over his nose, his jawline, even his hair. Some viewers still joke they preferred the Beast to the Prince. Not just a reveal, but a dilemma that split the studio. What audiences didn't know is that Disney never found a perfect answer, making the ending one of the most debated in animation history. Beauty and the Beast wasn't just another Disney fairy tale. It was a war of ideas, a story reshaped by tragedy, deadlines, and impossible risks that somehow came together as a masterpiece. The Ballroom may look effortless, but behind it was sweat, heartbreak, and defiance. And decades later, the rose still glows. If you love these secrets, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, because as Mrs. Potts sang, "Tale as old as time still has truths left to tell."